Welcome to the Hall Space Podcast. It's about connections. I'm your host, Dr. Rich Hall, and this is a weekly conversation about whatever and however I see to connect things. For people who want to connect, chat, and learn a thing or two about a thing or two. Without further ado, let's start the show. And we're back. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
It's episode 14 of the Hall Space Podcast.
14.
Yes.
Nice.
And I'm your host, Dr. Rich Hall, and my lovely and capable wife is with me today.
Nicole Hall. Hey
yes. There. Hey. How's it going, everybody out there in cyberspace? And last week we talked a lot about the kids, and we had some topics we did not get to, so we thought we'd get to those topics this week.
That is correct.
Yes. So I know you had wanted to talk about the Rihanna Fenty fashion show.
Yes, we one of the things that I saw on the interwebs sometime last week was that she has a menswear line, and it's particularly a lingerie line for men. Mm-hmm. But it includes big men. And so one of the pictures that went viral is that there's, the the young slender guy with the six pack and all of that, and then there's the guy next to him who is probably more realistically built. So he's 6'2", couple 100 pounds, and it went viral, and everybody, all the ladies, we were kind of like, yes, big boy season been happening. But I think what was really interesting about it was that we talk about body positivity with women a lot, but we don't necessarily talk about it with men. And one of the things that I saw that was very interesting was that the ladies were like, yes, that's what men look like. That's what we like. That's what my boo looks like. That is all of that. Give it to me. And there were a lot of guys that were like, I've never seen somebody built like me in an ad wearing something that I know that if I went out to go buy it, it was made with my body shape and me in mind. And that's big because representation matters.
Representation does matter.
Whether you're black, you're white, you're male, female, non-binary, whatever it is, you want to be represented. You want to see something or someone like you represented. And realistically speaking, most men are shaped like this other guy.
Yeah. Representation matters because human beings are modeling creatures, right?
Right.
We compare ourselves constantly, whether we want to or not. And it takes effort to not compare yourself to others. So when we don't see ourselves in the world or see the world reflect us back at us, it can make us feel invalidated.
Right. So imagine all your entire life, you're constantly seeing 19-year-old men with, six pack, you're 52 or whatever, that you don't see anything that represents you.
Yes.
What does that tell you?
Women have lived with that for
we
centuries, right? There has always been an industry built for women.
Correct.
To show them a representation of themselves that might not be accurate to how they really look, and how they, how you should groom and how you should be shaped, and how healthy and fit you should be. It's only within the last, I would say 20 years, a little over 20 years, 30 years maybe, where male representation has started to slide in that same surreal way where you can no longer just be a person. There's an expectation that you are superhuman looking. The Rock is not a typical body state. The Rock doesn't even look like The Rock looked.
No, he doesn't.
10 years ago, 20 years ago. Now he looks like this superhuman creature. Who's like muscles on top of muscles.
Well, and he does it for the movies. He has a team of people to get him like that.
Right. That's often the part that's ignored or missed or looked over, is that they have a team of people to make them look so beautiful. And they do.
They do look beautiful. It's their job. Too. Though, right?
I'm often struck by those people. You see those people on like Instagram or whatever, the Insta thoughts or whatever you want to call them. The Instagram models. They are models. or they say they are. I don't know. Sometimes they do
Air
photo
quotes.
shoots. Well, it's always interesting when you see them next to their actual sister, right? Like you see an Instagram person next to their actual family member, and they look so different because
that is such that's a big look at their mom or look at their sister or their
sibling,
cousin who's not rich, right?
Right. And suddenly it's like, oh, they look hyper real, like they're shaped. They're a lot more sculpted.
Yeah,
their skin tone is often different.
They're
than
glowy.
Their
there's a lot.
You can tell a lot of work has gone into the production.
A lot of work
that is
going.
them, and the fact that now men are pressured by those similar
correct
outside imagery and thus have an ideal.
Yeah,
and I think that it's definitely a young man's game. I mean, at 40, I don't have any impressions that I should be. But I was listening to a podcast, Fake Doctors, Real Friends with the Scrubs guys and Donald Faison, whom been a fan of his career forever. He was talking about how, as men, we always tend to like our physique in retrospect. Mm-hmm. We look back 10 years ago and it's like, oh man, I was really fit, but I didn't think
that at the time. Yeah.
Right. Or, he was lamenting his pre-COVID body.
Yeah.
And how he knew he had put on like 20 pounds over the COVID.
Yep.
He had gained the COVID 20, COVID 40. However,
we kind of all did. Yeah.
A lot of people have. And so, it's very interesting when we think about how we don't always see ourselves with light or with love. We often see ourselves through these very critical lenses.
Right.
And thus, it makes it difficult for us to really, truly sort of be happy, be ourselves, enjoy these bodies we have, take care of these bodies.
Yeah.
Because we can learn to loathe them.
We can, because if we ingest that we should look a certain way and we never look that way, or we're constantly
if you eat
striving.
Too much media and you think that your world should look like what the media represents,
they don't even look like what they represent.
They don't even look like, but they can be curated, they can be sculpted, they can be. There's like 8. If you see those videos, there's like 8 people floating around them, making their hair go a certain way, making their eyebrows look a certain way. Contouring is now a thing, so you can't even really tell.
You have no idea
how someone's nose actually looks because they've contoured their cheekbones all to
And there are
they're basically fully they're genuinely airbrushing people in real life.
They're absolutely doing that, and then there are all of these interesting procedures that you can have, in addition to surgeries and all that kind of stuff. And it's just unrealistic. It's unrealistic.
And so men are not immune to that.
Men are not immune. And again, just like many things, there's levels, right? So within the African American community, I think we love all of it. Right. And I feel like
traditionally, and I remember learning this in psychology, like African Americans tend to prefer larger body sizes in a way that white people don't.
Right.
Particularly in females. And or in males.
Right.
But once again, the dad bod has always been kind of
it's
not always, but within the last 20 years, once again.
It's been like a negative connotation.
It's got a little bit of negativity, but it's also kind of, there have been women who find it attractive.
We love it. I love it.
And so, while it has within some circles this, what's interesting about opinions on the internet is everybody's got one.
Of course.
And people always, because human beings have not evolved beyond responding to criticism, each opinion that is critical is treated as if it is a universal opinion.
Right.
When in reality, it's the opinion of some schmo
in,
Kentucky versus some schmo in Indiana, and they might not even see eye to eye. Like, it's hard to
schmoes.
say what the consensus of opinions is.
Right.
Now, we can often sort of norm the opinions by looking at sort of what in general, like, okay, so this subset of the population likes this type of body, this subset. So the healthy crowd definitely thinks, you should only eat healthy, you should have 0% body fat,
you should have
and then there is the those of us who have a somewhat normal American diet, which is abnormal in other countries, right? It's like, okay, I should be able to have fries once every month or two. It was funny, I was sitting in group one time and they were all talking about eating. At some point they said eat. I ate a hamburger and fries today, and I can't eat that stuff, every week. And I remember it was me and another black guy in there, and my thing went up like, okay, so these relatively privileged kids who come from these relatively privileged backgrounds. In their life, they might not eat fast food, but like once a month, maybe.
Right.
And it was funny that the black guy was like, wait, how often should you eat that stuff? Like he had never stopped to have this. What's a normal amount?
What do you consider?
Yeah, because in his diet.
Yeah.
And in mine, occasionally, you might just eat fries like 2 or 3 times a week.
If you're a college kid, it's a 99-cent menu. That's
yeah. Hey, they make it cheap and affordable. But for for other, I'm always struck by when I go to lunches at work and people are eating like blueberries and nothing else. And it's like, is that your lunch? Like you're just gonna eat peppers? You're just gonna eat peppers as a snack right now? You're just gonna pull out a thing of peppers and eat those right now? Is that what people do? Is that what they're for? Was I raised wrong? Did my parents not teach me how to take care of myself?
It's all these different choices. Like my coworker, when she would pack her lunch, she would put together carrots and grapes and apples and the whole thing. And I'm like, I'm gonna run to Wendy's. I'll be right back. Right.
I've got like chips and a sandwich, a whole roast that I made and brought in.
Relatively.
I eat healthy. The only person that eats healthier than me is Victoria in this house. Yeah. And that's because she just doesn't, she's not a big fan of meats.
She doesn't eat meat.
She eats some meat. She'll snack on some bacon occasionally. She'll eat eggs, but like she's vegetarian, not pescatarian.
Yeah, which is...
She does like some chicken
about that.
I mean, it's just gonna be what it is. I love that you feel like you have to have an opinion about it.
I do.
She eats what she eats.
I know, but
she could eat her weight in grapes and salad with croutons and all that. So I got one kid I'm raising decent. The other two, they eat like rats. They're eat all sugars and salts. They will subsist on frozen waffles. Frozen waffles and chicken wings is what that kid would eat for every meal if he could.
Yep.
And Richie's just honestly hamburgers and chicken nuggets and pizza. Yeah.
I mean, they all like fruit though.
Yeah, I mean, they eat oranges. There are orange peels literally all over my house.
Yeah,
but anyway, we got off topic. So, yes, guys are not immune. I always remember the study they talked about in psychology as well, where, there was this culture that had never seen American TV, and I feel like it was Samoa or someplace like that. Like this, it was a small island, and it wasn't until they took TV there. Prior to that, everybody had like larger bodies, and they were fine, and they were happy. Larger body was actually seen as a thing of status. And within like a year of getting, American or Western television and media, they started to see their suicide rates go up. They started to see body image concerns. All these things started changing. It used to be in the textbooks that African American women didn't have bulimia body image concerns. It has actually shifted in the last 10 years or more, 15 or so years, because if we're thinking about when I went into graduate school, by the time I came out, it was suddenly being added like, wait, body image stuff is showing up. Like black women are getting serious issues around their weight and their body image. And now it's even worse. Like it's now a part of like, oh, we used to think that black women didn't have these concerns because in the black community you could be a bigger size. It's now nope. Within the black community there are people who do appreciate a bigger size, but these ideals around body shape. Right. So that Coke bottle, hourglass figure is...
So they're going to Mexico and getting concrete injected in their butts so that their butt is bigger.
Or wearing those waist trainers that might be bad for your internal organs. And all those things so that they can get this, and it's largely about like, once again, attention. It's about... being appreciated, enjoyed by the opposite sex, being a viable sex partner, a viable relationship partner, and people who just, I was talking about this with somebody, and it's like the idea that when you're in relationships, it helps shave down parts of you. It helps you sort of learn who you are. If you're just out there looking for relationships and you never have one, or you don't have any long-term ones, then you just keep bouncing through the what person do I have to be for someone to like me? Right. And
what image do I need to put out there in order to...
And so a lot of guys end up having these ideals that they're supposed to be this type of guy because, then the women will throw themselves at them. One thing that guys don't know, and I'll say this before we move on to another topic maybe, I now know at 40 that I didn't know at 15, and I try to teach this to the 20-something people that I talk to all the time. guys assume that girls have all these answers around dating and that they're just waiting to be chosen. They often don't know that girls are just as anxious and totally in their own head as you are as a guy. And so they're thinking, the girls just don't like me because of this, this, and this. They might not even know what girls do like them. And then when the girl that does like them likes them, they might not be attracted to her because they got this ideal in their head.
Right.
And so, a lot of times there are certain women within society who it's like everybody likes, so every guy shoots their shot at her. Yeah. And then there's the girl that, not to say nobody likes, but like
they're not as many shooting their shot.
They're not always shooting their shot, but
yeah.
That might be a more compatible mate.
Right.
But people don't go after, you know what I mean? They just assume they need to have this person who's well regarded by everyone.
Yeah.
It's because we have certain beauty standards. It's like, and so because they get rejected by that person who doesn't have to, by virtue of economy, even care that you're into her or protect your feelings if she's not a nice person, then they get bitter because it's like, well, no girls like me because these types of women that I go after all the time don't like me. But I'm chasing
you're chasing
societal ideal.
Yeah.
Rather than just,
looking
normal
for compatibility,
people get together and just can enjoy their life together and be fine.
Yeah. But you're saying this as 40-year-old.
I'm saying this as 40-year-old. I feel like I knew some of this.
Yeah.
As 15-year-old or 15-year-old me, 20-year-old me, I knew I didn't always like the girl that everybody liked.
Yeah.
I was a girl next door kind of guy.
And I was the girl next to the girl. So.
Right. So, nothing against Trinice. I thought she was beautiful, but it was like,
she's a beautiful girl.
She's a lot of trouble. But her friend who finds me funny and I can laugh together and have a decent conversation with.
Yeah.
I remember I was talking to my white friend, Randy, in college. And I remember he said he would never go after a really pretty girl because he didn't think he was good enough to date a girl like that. And I remember being like floored, but why would you even have that opinion about yourself?
Yeah.
But didn't know that I held a similar type of opinion, but not like, I didn't think it wasn't a matter of whether or not I was good enough.
Yeah.
I just learned like it just ends up being a little bit more trouble. And just because I think a person is like, TV star gorgeous doesn't mean I'm going to be compatible and be able to hold a conversation with them.
There's definitely, a compatibility. And
and that sometimes you get so caught up in that in your head.
You do.
You're so attracted to this person, you're not able to be yourself in a way that you can just,
You're not even useful in a relationship really because you're thinking of them in this.
You're not even useful in a conversation, so I can't even crack through I just think you're so gorgeous. I just think you're so great. Yeah. No, and I think everybody who has those dating stories in their teens and 20s has that. They bump up against the person they like only see them through the lens of I'm completely attracted to you, and are thus unable to get their shit together to actually have a conversation with them and even be able to give them the whole you because you're just too busy being like, she's talking to me. What do I say and what do I do? And so the idea that you should just somebody you're comfortable with, somebody you're compatible with, and have an attraction to, you need all those things to fall into place.
There's so many things that need to fall in place. I remember seeing, I had a lot of crushes, and you sometimes you get an opportunity to actually meet that person, and you're like,
you get some time with your crush.
He's so handsome,
right?
But wow,
yeah.
Or
not a lot going on up there.
They're talking, and we're just not ever.
Sometimes pretty people don't have to have a lot of personality. They've never had to carry.
So you just salt and pepper. There's no garlic. There's
no zest in there whatsoever.
No paprika.
yeah. I just get to be handsome and don't have to think about.
Yeah.
That's why it's usually like the best. I hear or read somewhere like the best people are the people who didn't think of themselves as pretty growing up and then blossomed, like the ugly duckling kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because then those people, they had to develop a personality. They had to like bounce off of other people.
Yeah.
And then it's like now they're attractive and they can be really down to earth and interesting.
There's something about being well-rounded and full circle and able to be around all kinds of people. All that kind of stuff matters. And one of the things that we talk about is, of course, our daughter's beautiful.
Yeah, but she's going to be very pretty.
She's absolutely beautiful. But we're also going to make her useful.
Yeah,
we always joke about that. Like,
and tough.
She's definitely
going to be useful and tough.
She's definitely tough. And she's definitely beautiful, but we also want her to be smart and funny and all these other things. We want you to
be well-rounded as an individual.
Exactly. And so I think that there are people out there like that, or that were raised that way, or whatever. But I think the interesting thing is there is this subculture where I feel like men, particularly black men, we've celebrate us and, you know, the mom bodies and all that kind of stuff. And it's interesting to see that, particularly the people that were in this feed with this guy, hadn't seen that sort of celebration for them.
Yeah.
You know, so the guy that's the model, that's the first time he had ever taken his shirt off and had his picture taken.
Yeah.
And, you know, he said his agent was like, you can't pass this up. This is Rihanna, you know, and he's like,
no, get
okay,
that check, buddy.
Get that check. I mean, and honestly, listen, hashtag big boy season. I love all of it.
Hey, it is big boy season.
It is big boy season, big girl season. And I'm just going to wear the clothes that fit.
Right.
You know.
The other side of that is that what I was going to say is that we project onto pretty people. So we assume because they're pretty that we will like everything about them, which once again limits our ability to fully discern. Like, we will forgive pretty people for a lot. We will give pretty people more than we give anybody else. Like, as a society, we're just really bad at, you know, pretty equals success in some ways.
Yeah. And it's so interesting what that, when you say pretty, it's like,
it's subjective.
It is super
subjective. But there are normative expectations around what society calls pretty.
Yeah, there is a I don't know what I want to call it, a sort of set of standards that everybody can agree to, I guess.
No,
maybe.
I mean, there are cultural standards by which we judge beauty.
Right, but there's something that can go across the board for a lot of people. What is symmetry? What is it?
Symmetry, body symmetry.
Symmetrical faces.
Symmetrical faces is one.
They did the study.
Hip to waist ratio is another. There are certain traits that are considered healthier, just like youth, by virtue of like skin tone and you know, the presence of wrinkles, things like that.
Right.
Some of that is associated with fertility.
Right.
And by virtue of that, through an anthropological lens, we can understand that there are some beauty standards that are considered cross-cultural, but then culture bends all lenses. Right. As we talked about previously with worldview. So,
and if you think about media, it influences that.
Right. Media bends. Yeah. But media often comes from, I mean, you know, a white beauty standard. Things have been shifting considerably, you know, once again, in the last 10 years, but they've always sort of held because they controlled the cultures and the media, they get to set the beauty standards. And so even though there are some, like, okay, certain hip to waist ratio is considered more attractive, a certain face symmetry is considered more attractive, you know, skin tone and things like that, then there are the ways in which that gets completely fractured once you step into whatever cultural lens you're standing in, a worldview you're standing in, and then, you know, it goes in whatever direction it goes. You know,
I know Kev on Stage was talking about that on the comedy show that we watched last night.
Yes, we've been watching Kev on Stage's Keep Your Distance comedy. I try to support that whenever I can.
Yep, check it out.
As a fan of Kev on Stage, Tony Baker's usually in those, but this week was the all black women one, and that one was amazing.
It was great.
And what's interesting about talking about it to you as an audience now, you can't watch it right now. It has a 24-hour window in which it can be viewed. And after that, it disappears off the internet. Now, Kev on Stage is working on an app
that you can get to it,
his comedies, and I think he talked about in one of his shows, one of his podcasts or something, that it's supposed to come on. That.
So I didn't realize that. I figured that you could always just go.
No.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's got a 24-hour window.
Okay.
And you can get to a link of it. Then after 24 hours, it disappears. Okay. And then I'm assuming, because he'll trickle out some of the comedy from it.
Yeah, he'll do snippets,
and then I'm assuming that he'll produce it on his app.
Okay.
For later.
Okay. That'll be cool.
Yeah. I plan to subscribe to it just because I love most of the stuff he does and follow him and his friends and a lot of Tony Baker stuff too. So big fan of Kev on Stage and Keep Your Distance comedy.
Yeah.
It's always pretty hilarious. It's a hilarious way to spend. We usually watch it on a Saturday night as opposed to the Friday when it drops.
Right.
We do movie nights on the Fridays as a way to convene with some people in our lives to
our COVID circle.
Extend our bubble.
Right.
Which is just my mom and my sister.
Yeah.
But yes, I highly recommend the Kev on Stage.
Yeah, but he was kind of talking about, you know, what he finds attractive and what versus what everybody else finds attractive. So he was talking about the white standard of beauty, and he's like, okay, Gwyneth Paltrow, really?
Yeah.
You know, it's like Julia Roberts did her thing in Pretty Woman, but you know,
yeah.
And if you think about so African Americans versus, you know,
white beauty standards, like Angela Bassett, always a hottie.
Listen, right? And she's 50. What?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
She's,
so, you know, amazing.
Beautiful.
There are many stars from, you know, what I'll call our side of the fence.
Yeah.
That white people might not know about. Like, they don't know about Nia Long the way I do.
Right.
But I love her a long time.
She's beautiful.
You know, they may know Gabrielle Union just because she's married to Dwayne Wade.
Right.
You know, showed up in quite a few white movies. But love her long. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, there are many white people who show up in certain movies and things, and I'm like, oh, is she the current?
Oh, she's the
okay. Yeah, sure.
Hey, I
mean, sure.
Whatever.
What's interesting is, like, I'm a professional adult now. You know, when you were when I was 20, you'd stand around with guys and talk about stuff like that.
Yeah.
All the time. Like, oh, did you see that movie with Renee Zellweger?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, she's all right. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sure.
But now I'm not in a space like all my coworker friends are married.
Yeah.
It's COVID, so we don't get to hang out and have casual conversations.
Yeah.
And we just never stand around and talk about what actress we think is hot. That's not a conversation I have anymore.
Well, also, interestingly enough, because you're older and because you're married, I don't know that people have those conversations. So we have those conversations all the time, like who our top 5 crushes are. Like, listen, I'm pretty sure if Janet Jackson knocked on her door, you'd walk away. But
I don't know anymore.
You don't know anymore?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to have a conversation with her, but am I falling in love? I mean,
I mean, if we're talking about like your top 5, do we need them to? Do they have to talk? Because then that's a different list. My list is different. Let me say that.
Yeah. I mean, at this point in my life, I do need to be able to. I can't do this with you if you got trash ideas.
Well, okay. So
if you're like, I don't believe in global warming and the Earth is flat, I'll be like, what?
So I constantly say this to you all the time, and I'm going to say this to you on air, okay? You're welcome.
It's recorded for posterity.
You're welcome, okay? Sense of humor. Cutie patootie over here, right?
Yeah.
You think you're going to like... Right. I'm all right. I'm all right. You know.
I won't kick you out of bed or
I'm just saying, you could go to Instagram and get one of them young girls, but they don't read books.
But when it's over, what you got to talk about?
She don't have nothing to talk about.
To quote the great Fonte Colvin, when it's over, what you got to talk about?
What do you have to talk about?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You really going to throw it all away for some chick off of Instagram?
Yeah.
Don't do it. Mission abort. These streets are not a game and it isn't a sport.
Listen, go to bed. Go to bed.
I've seen so many love stories. One shorty buried your couch. Now she aired you out in 140s. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Take your butt to bed, G. Yeah. So no, I am old enough to know that fantasy of this beautiful woman in the bikini who takes pictures isn't in it for me.
Yeah.
And doesn't care. And the time it would take to get to know her and develop whatever would make me comfortable enough to spend more than 5 minutes with her just isn't worth the energy, my guy.
Honestly, I'm gonna say this. I have some deathly allergies and I have some weird quirks, and I don't want to have to train another. I do.
Yeah.
And you know, each and every one of them, I don't want to have to train a whole nother human.
Yeah, it makes it easy. Makes life a little easier.
Yeah. I mean, you're all right too. So
yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I mean, I like you.
I don't work that hard at it.
You know, it's flawless for you. It's very easy.
Yeah.
You wake up like this.
I wake up like this.
Nice.
Just in full.
Nice.
Just perfection. Don't mess with perfection.
Right. You're like a fine wine now, right?
Yes. And finely aged to perfection. But yeah, no, I don't. So that's the interesting thing about beauty standards. Interestingly enough, I was watching a video about OnlyFans, which, you know, we could talk a little bit about that for random reasons. And it was like, the video asked the question that I asked, like, why, if pornography is free on the internet, why would you ever pay a woman for the possibility of seeing...
And I don't know that you're going to give me anything that the free porn wouldn't.
Right. But they do. They provide all the things that you could get from a relationship without a relationship.
Do they, though?
Yes, they will send you private messages. They will connect with you, like send you emails, like private texts.
You can,
for more money, get like requests that they'll do a video with just you, like your, say, girlfriend or wife might do, but most wives don't necessarily, you don't be sending me, naked pictures.
I do not, because I'm afraid that I'm going to send it to my boss on accident.
I mean, I understand that concern, but if the
I've never done that.
Via the OnlyFans, they could develop a community of other perverts like themselves who also like to ogle the same girl.
Okay.
And they can get private messages from the person, and it's $20 a month if you want to spend that.
So this is the internet's version of the 900 line.
Yes.
So it's the
same
they send
scam.
You stuff and they
same scam.
Blow your balls basically.
Right.
Basically,
right.
They gaslight you with it. That's what
it's not really gaslighting, because it feels like an authentic connection, and it's about what somebody needs. For a lonely person, you live a life where you would just die for some time alone. But imagine the other side of the coin, when you had an apartment and there were just swaths of time where nobody was coming to see you and nobody's blowing up your phone.
And I loved every second.
Yeah, I know, you're an introvert. But for those who don't love every second of it and would just like a moment of human connection, $20 a month is not a lot to pay for that.
So it's a subscription?
It's a subscription, yes.
Because you've already looked into it for yourself.
Well, I mean, I've had several online conversations and read quite a few things about it. Just because
you were curious.
I mean, I get curious about a lot of things.
I just think it's funny.
Uh-oh. Did I just Kobayashi Maru myself? Is this a no-win scenario?
Well, I think the funny thing is we're seeing a lot of people on the Instagrams that are married couples that both have OnlyFans.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's weird. So I can't have an OnlyFans.
I mean, you can if you're teaching coding, because they do have OnlyFans for things like that.
I don't want to teach anybody anything.
See, that's the problem.
Listen, I'm already a learning coach, and I'm not
for
great
3
at
kids.
That.
Yeah.
And you know
kindergarten learning coach, and a 3rd grade learning coach, and a
5th grade learning
coach. Yes.
You know how many dollars they pay me?
None. That's what I'm saying. You should get some money.
That's true.
For teaching coding in a low cut shirt. That's what I'm saying.
I think you forget the assets that I have. My low cut shirt.
No, right. Also, make sure you get your assets in there. Okay, I would not allow my wife to run an OnlyFans.
No, he would not.
I mean, if they want to pay you to watch you code, there would be guys who would do that. There would be. I swear to God, because there are guys who pay gaming girls. They just want to watch them play the game. Maybe get the chance to talk to them while they play the game.
So I could do it OnlyFans.
She just wears a bra while she plays Call of Duty, and
so I could get me.
All she does is occasionally say hi and look you in the eye via the camera. And
so I could create websites, and they would
pay to watch you do
me do that.
Just watch you stare at a screen, and occasionally you got to like act cute and talk in the breathy. Who was that? In Boomerang, the Layla Rashawn breathy voice. Yeah.
Gold star for Marcus.
Yes. You got to just do that. Oh, thank you so much for subscribing.
Just love it. Hi. So what I'm gonna do is put a grid view on the page.
Grid view. Oh yeah.
That is so weird.
Oh yeah.
That is so weird.
Grid view.
Double click that baby.
Oh yeah. It's just what I like.
We both sound like old people creepers.
Get it a real good like. Write that HTML. This podcast has got off the rails.
Don't forget to close that tag.
Ooh,
Control Shift B. You gonna build that, girl? Oh, it was successful.
Oh, compiled.
Oh, compiled.
Oh, compiled all over the place. The CSS is so clean. It's so clean.
It's multi-browser compatible. Oh my god.
Let me see how it looks on Android and on iOS.
So not only are we old creepy people, but we're nerds.
Yeah. Oh man. And in the age of COVID, what's been interesting is like a lot more people are lonely and need some kind of connection. So,
well, if you think about it, if you're trapped in your apartment,
I could not imagine. Like, I tried to mentally wrap my head around what that would be like.
I wouldn't have been able to imagine it either, because I think, if we were both 20, right? And we weren't dating each other, and you're just kind of in school. Yeah. Like, you wouldn't be able to really go see.
You can't really, see people. I've talked to 20-somethings about how they're dating. It's weird.
You can't date.
They have to
I guess
they
you
have to
can,
genuinely
but...
like. So they FaceTime each other.
Okay.
And that's how they'll like talk that way and hang out that way.
Right.
And then if you feel like comfortable enough, then you can maybe do a meeting together that's socially distant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, it's weird. Like when they tell me about it, I'm like in my head,
how does
this
that
is
even
weird?
Yeah.
This sounds nothing but weird, and I'm so glad I don't have to do that.
So glad. Well, honestly,
so happy.
Even pre-COVID, like just to see, I know a lot of girlfriends who are out and dating, and they're out of their 20s or whatever, and it's just like, wow, is this what you guys have to
put up
with?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow, yeah,
it's crazy.
Because we dated before the internet was super popular.
Yeah, way so long ago.
Yeah.
So sometimes when giving 20-somethings advice, it's like, oh, just talk to a person. You just talk to a girl, and then and they're like, nah, I mean, I'd rather text. And it's like, no, you got to like work your game in 3D, my guy. You got to in the meat space be able to pull a honey.
There's definitely
you gotta pull that fly honey's coat, my guy. But like, hey there, girl. Let me tell you something. Let me whisper something. If you're telling
them that, they are not hearing those words.
They're not hearing those words. That sound old fashioned. That sound old fashioned. Just walk up to that girl and get her digits, my guy. Just gotta
get her digits.
Get her digits. Be like, excuse me, sister. Looking exceptional today.
Hey, beautiful. What's going on, chocolate?
Right. Looking lovely. Just wondering, what you into?
What's your name? What's your sign? Okay.
See, it's attitudes like that. So I was going to go back. That actually reminds me of something before we take the break. Is one of the reasons that guys often don't have a clear vision of how they are perceived by the opposite sex is there is a higher risk for women to be complimentary to guys. So a guy can go a very long time without getting very many compliments on their appearance from women, because doing that opens a door that might get you in trouble as a woman, right?
Yeah.
Like women just aren't out here giving compliments to guys.
Yeah.
Guys give compliments to women, like cat calls and things like that.
Right.
But men can very rarely get any sort of compliment on their appearance from another female, just because you say it to the wrong person and now he's obsessed with you.
And now it's a thing, and now he's standing outside your window.
And now you're an episode of the First 48.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's very true.
And so societally, because of misogyny, we screwed ourselves as men. We just aren't going to get the same feedback.
Women are very apprehensive.
Right. We often, prior to some of this stuff, we didn't even think about it. We could just be whatever crappy, unwashed, ashy gentleman we want to be.
Yeah.
And don't think in terms of what the consequences for that will be.
Yeah.
But I take a lot of pride in my appearance for the most part.
You do.
Only buttoned up shirts during the day. And
you look nice.
I moisturize, condition my hair.
And your beard is always so soft.
My beard is always conditioned every day. I wear beard butter, occasional oils, keep myself looking fresh. Because I think it's important. Yeah. And what's funny about guys is if you ask a guy, hey, what products do you use? They might not use any or not be able to tell you.
Yeah.
Like when I went on this natural hair journey, there were no guys I could talk to about what it was like, because most guys don't think about it, or do they invest really in their appearance in that way. Straight guys. I was able to call, your gay cousin and say, hey, what do you use to moisturize? And he gave me some really good product ideas.
His skin is always so freaking beautiful.
Because his skin is flawless.
All the time.
And I didn't want to have to keep looking old if I didn't have to, if moisturizing could help.
Yeah. Well, and he's always just been... He's just always been so well groomed. And
very Tay Diggs in his overall appearance and demeanor.
Well, his mom and dad, they're the same way, and so is his sister. So they're all like that.
Of pretty people who moisturize their skin and take care of themselves.
Yeah, so there's always this sort of So when they see me and I'm like in sweats, they're like, "Is that what you're wearing today?" Yeah.
And then I'm in like a sport coat with
my
moisturized hair, my well brushed teeth.
Yeah.
Because in my world, you got to take care of yourself. You got to look good for the people. I'm going to be one of those snazzy old guys. Yeah,
he's the guy that wakes up and is fully dressed.
No, I get fully dressed. I mean, I sleep in clothes. I'm a bit of a never nude. Now we're getting into some deep stuff. Bit of a
no, but
nude.
I
get dressed. I get dressed as soon as I get up. As soon as I get up, I take a shower and get dressed.
Yes, fully dressed down to your shoes. And my grandfather was the same way.
Yeah.
He was always fully
because you start
dressed.
the day.
Yeah, and if he was ever in his pajamas, it was super early in the morning. He hadn't gotten dressed yet. But even then, he's got pajamas and a house coat on. Like, he's always fully dressed.
Yeah.
My grandmother's the opposite.
Always in a muumuu.
Always, listen, maybe.
She wants to be comfortable.
Okay. And I am also the same way.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So, you know.
Yeah. We need to take a break. And then
right.
we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about some recent events and some things. And I guess some stuff about anxiety, because we were talking about that last week.
Mental Health Day.
Yes, yesterday was World Mental Health Day. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And we'll see you guys in just a minute.
See you soon.
So let me tell you about Anchor Podcast. It's the podcasting service that I use. Anchor.fm is the easiest way to make a podcast, and there are many different reasons why, but foremost is it's free. So you don't need to go out and buy a whole bunch of equipment. If you have a phone or a computer and a microphone, you can record and edit your podcast right on your phone or computer. So that's one major benefit, as well as the fact that they'll distribute your podcast to several different podcasting sites for you. Not only can your podcast be found on Anchor, it can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast as well. So you don't have to worry about going to all those different sites and setting yourself up. They'll do it for you. You can also make some money on your podcast. Say you have a podcast that only 5 people listen to on a regular basis. They don't limit you on how many subscribers you have to have in order to be able to make a little bit of change for your podcast to keep yourself going. So pretty much everything you need to start a podcast can be found at Anchor.fm. So go download the app either in the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or go to Anchor.fm to get started. And I guarantee you, it'll make things so much easier for you, like it has for me. And we're back.
Hey there.
Welcome back to the Hall Space Podcast. Dr. Rich Hall and Nicole Hall doing our thing.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome back, and thanks for coming. Or joining, or listening, if you're still with us. I mean, I get to see the podcast reviews, so I do know that some people don't listen to the whole episode, maybe for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
Myself have had to stop listening for stuff because I got other stuff to do.
Yeah.
So there's quite a few that I've listened to every one of them all the way through because I edit them, but then there are some where I try to re-listen, and I may not have heard the whole thing.
I honestly haven't listened to the last 2 episodes.
Wow. It'd be your own family, guys. It'd be your own family.
I'm telling you, these kids don't let me listen to nothing. It's like they know when I want to listen, actively listen to something. It's just...
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was there when it happened.
Yeah. Sure.
Haven't listened to it. My bad co-host.
It's okay. I don't think Terry listens to the episodes he's not in. So that's the thing about podcasts. You might create a thing that nobody listens to. I'm like a SoundCloud rapper out here, just dropping these gems. Whether you listen to it or not, now I got to be the guy who's running around like, listen to my mixtape. Listen to my podcast, Joe.
Hey, check it out. Check
out my podcast. It'd be skits.
It's so dope. It's so dope.
We'll be having great educational conversations, dropping these knowledge darts.
Right.
Right in your cranium.
Got skits. Mad
pressing
funny.
your mind grapes.
Okay.
Out here, giving you that straight up knowledge, son.
Okay.
And nobody cares. So
I care.
Yeah. Sure you do.
I care.
Says the person who has not listened to the last 2 podcasts. May I rewind and play your words back to you?
Oh, man, you don't have to, though. That's unnecessary. You know what that
Let's just cue it up.
Not helpful.
So, we were going to talk about Mental Health Day yesterday.
Yeah.
Was that what we were going to talk about?
Yeah.
So yesterday was World Mental Health Day or something. I don't know the days. It's sometimes none of us have anything to do. We're now in a global. What
day is it? It's
right,
Sunday.
right. Time has not mattered for 8 months now. Yep. Going on 9. I barely know that it's October. It feels like September rushed through, and there's so much stuff happening in the world. It feels like they're trying to pack everything into the last 4 months of the year. And we're just not sure that we're not going to wake up to literally a blank space. Like all of reality will shut down on December 1st. And so in the face of that, or December 31st, on New Year's Day, the ball will drop and then nothing. It's like one of those movies. It's like The Matrix where he just steps into a white room. Yeah. And it's like, so what just happened? We're all the reality had to reboot. Right. Because it was just getting way off the rails. Like the programming's bad right now. I don't know what's going on.
You have to unplug it and plug it back
right. In. Or something. Can we get tech support down here to reboot our reality? Because
wow.
It's a bit much. And even then, me being the weirdo that I am, it could actually get worse. It could actively get worse. And so it is a time of a lot of anxiety for a lot of people in the world. And so it's very telling that, World Mental Health Day happens on 10/10/2020 because it's a really good opportunity to stop and reassess where you are mentally. I always tell people that stress is pretty much anything that happens to the body. So both the good and the bad is stress. So when we look at like the things that are the most stressful, it's often a list of things that could be the best thing that could ever happen to you, but also the worst thing that could ever happen to you. So a death in your life or losing your job, but also getting a new job or moving into a new home or getting married, all those things, or divorce, right? Like, so all those things lead to a considerable amount of stress, right. Be it what we call eustress or distress, right? Eustress is what we consider the stress from the good stuff. Distress is the stress from the bad stuff. We're in a weird time right now where everything feels like stress because a part of our internal mental RAM is also processing a pandemic.
Yeah, because everything's unknown right now.
Everything is uncertain. So a lot of things that we considered to be stable in the world are now up in the air. And so it's a little bit like gaining your sea legs. And even after 8 months, 9 months, there are a lot of people who we got the COVID anxiety, the COVID fatigue. Right. We're a little worn out from the stories. We've got a president who comes with daily headlines. So that becomes overwhelming as far as what's going on in the government. Like I've said it before, I look forward to the day when we have a boring president again who just doesn't gain this much media attention. Right. And I can go large swaths without hearing. I can hear there was something happened. There was a speech in the Rose Garden today as the president welcomed, the leader of Dubai and they exchanged keys and now, or they exchanged some fruit and he gave him a pet lobster and now, everything's fine. And I'll be like, oh, that doesn't matter in my life at all. And not, Rose Garden was the center of a super spreader event wherein the pandemic that's been affecting all of us showed us that the government officials themselves weren't immune. I said this a couple of days ago, but we are genuinely living in a horror movie. That beginning montage in a horror movie where society kind of falls down and you're like, how did it get so bad? If you think about like the movie 28 Days Later, right, where the guy wakes up from his coma and it's like, how could the world have gotten that bad in 28 days? We are now 8 months into a pandemic and the president has COVID and is still not wearing masks to places,
going out to
and
speak to
making people follow him around unmasked. And okay, so that's how society falls apart. Like in the montage, it's the picture of the president who now has the deadly virus throwing hats to his supporters. Like, because that would be in the montage.
Taking his mask
anytime that I've ever thought one of those movies was possibly not realistic, I now know, oh crap, I was wrong the entire time because I didn't understand humanity.
You were wrong
on a base level.
We were wrong.
If this were a worse thing, if this were truly a zombie infection, well, we would be it'd be The Walking Dead. We'd literally be living in huts and shooting our neighbors, I guess. Fortunately, we're not there as a society, and I'm going to back away for a second from my apocalyptic assessment and talk about just the effects that this takes on a person mentally and emotionally. It wears you out. Even if you went into this with anxiety, this does not help
at all.
It can exacerbate anxieties you have. It can make you really feel just constantly overwhelmed.
Right.
And that thing that we always have that is sort of attuned to stress just gets turned up to 11 because, like I said, there's a part of your RAM that's always thinking in terms of pandemic. Like anytime you think, well, let me just go grab, oh no, I don't go to the stores like that anymore because pandemic. Let me call up a friend. No, can't. Like, just go hang out with them because pandemic. Like, every interaction is in some way clouded by this. And I was actually talking to a group of psychologists in training or on Friday, and we were talking about how, like, none of our programs prepared us for. Normally, like, we're talking to clients and they're in stress, and we have our own stuff going on, but you learn to shut that door because you got to deal with what their thing is.
You gotta do
we are currently in a thing where everybody's having a shared experience, and we are trying to, like, stay clear-headed, and you know, they're telling you about their concerns, and you are not supposed to be thinking about how that triggers your own personal concerns. That's something we call countertransference, when their stuff brings up your stuff.
It's incredibly hard, though.
It is incredibly hard when there is a global thing happening. And one of the students in there said she's just tired of talking about it at all, in a way. Like, her class always leaves like 10 to 15 minutes at the beginning to talk about it. And she's like, I don't even want to talk about COVID anymore. Yeah. Which I can understand. I've definitely been in that place. And even in this podcast today, we spent the first 30 minutes not talking about it.
Yeah.
Only to loop around to it because it's just so enveloping.
Yeah. We say that before every call, like, okay, we don't really want to talk about politics, and we really don't want to talk about COVID.
Right, but because those things take over your whole life, it comes back to it. Yeah. So some of the things that I'll talk about in this next 20 minutes will just be, you know, recognizing when stress is overwhelming. A lot of times what people are tired of hearing is, well, just like take a walk and get out and try and do something to relax yourself. I'm what's called a DBT therapist, so that's one of my training models that I or theoretical orientations that I use, that I've been trained in. And DBT talks a lot about dialectics, which is like the idea that we can have extremes of thought, and that in some ways our thoughts and feelings can be sort of in different camps, and in some ways diametrically opposed to each other when we are truly struggling. And we can know things intellectually, but we don't always feel them emotionally, or we could feel things very strongly and our intellect hasn't caught up yet. And when we get too out of balance, that's when we find ourselves being completely overwhelmed. And so a lot of this stress can really cause us to be like, we know things, you know, taking a walk might make you feel better, but you just don't feel like it because you feel so overwhelmed by everything going on. Yeah. Or, you know, if you clean up your room, the order that'll be brought to your environment will help you be more clear-headed. But where are you going to find the motivation and the energy to do that? Yeah. Right. Sounds like I'm hitting a nail over there.
Story of my life.
Right.
Is you know that there are things that you can do. I know that there are a specific list of things that will give me what I need to get over, to get through my anxiety. But there's this hump that I always have to get over to get to the other side, to even try it. Yeah. To even feel good enough to do it. Does that make sense?
No. So it makes perfect sense.
I know that I love to run. Have I run? No. Yeah. Because then my brain starts going to, okay, well, I gotta get my workout clothes. Are my clothes clean? All the clothes are dirty. I need to go downstairs, do the laundry. Oh, the floor is wet now. I need to mop the floor. I need to get the clean clothes. What was I starting to do?
Right.
You know, and
being in your personal environment for so much means there's so much around that. There's always something that can be done in your home. You never hit a point in the home where there's nothing that can be done.
Right. And so when you're here 24/7,
right, you're constantly reminded
of it. You know, it's not like I can go downtown, do my job, pick up the kids, and then put my workout clothes on, and then exactly. Because one of the things that really worked for me was I would get home, I would put my workout clothes on immediately. Yeah. And then I knew, okay, I got to spend this 30 minutes on myself. This is what makes me feel better. This is what helps with my anxiety. You know, the kids knew that this was my time, you know, and it was right when I came home, and you don't have those boundaries anymore. And so it's so much harder to do. And so we do take walks. You know, my mom loves to walk. Yeah. The kids love to walk, but even sometimes it's hard to just
get out of your routine.
Yeah. And when, you know, don't nobody never know where their shoes are.
Oh my God.
So it's like everybody trying to find their shoes.
So it takes like 20 minutes just to get on the walk.
Just to get out on the walk.
Which we're only going to take for like 30 minutes.
You're only doing the cul-de-sac, man. It's not.
Yeah. Maybe loop the block.
Maybe, yeah.
If you got it in you. Yeah, so I mean, it's hard to gen up motivation, and it's hard to sort of, once again, keep your mind feeling as if you have control. And anxiety is almost always about control. Anytime you're struggling with anxiety, I often tell people, recognizing that it's often an attempt of your brain to have some sort of control. As I talked about last time, your brain is a pattern recognizing problem solver, so it finds itself looking for the places where it thinks it can control. More often than not, that's through expectations. If I set my expectations here, then this is what I'm aiming for. If I get that, if I don't get that, then I'll adjust. And sometimes those expectations are unrealistic. That's a whole other conversation. But sometimes they are just like hypothetical.
Yeah.
More often than not, they're hypothetical. You're just looking into the void, assuming you know what's going to happen.
Right.
I tell everyone, your brain is a bad predictor of outcomes. If it was ever a good predictor of outcomes, go straight to Vegas and play the slots and play the roulette wheel, because then you're going to make some money. But in reality, the entire gambling industry is built off the idea that your brain is a bad predictor that will think it knows what it's doing and even invest in outcomes that will turn out to be completely illusory, right? There's nothing there, but we think we can. And so in a situation like this, there's so little that you can place your expectations on. You know, you talk to someone who's like, yeah, what are your plans for next summer? And they're like, next summer, I don't know, COVID. Like, I barely know what's going to happen next month.
Yeah.
At some point, my boss asked me something about, in December. And I'm like, how could you even think in terms of December?
No idea.
Right now, because we don't know what tomorrow is going to be. And there's a lot of people like trying to sort of make normalcy happen. And it's like, what even does that mean? What even does that mean? I know you got to like try in the midst of all this to keep up some sense of normal, but what?
Because my anxiety says that I need to know what's happening in December.
Right.
So for your boss, December, he's got to know.
Yeah. There's some deliverables he needs by a certain day, and it's like, I can't tell you how I'm gonna be. Like, I know I'm gonna keep going through the motions like I have been. But I genuinely do not know. Like, there's a part of me that's just waiting for society to collapse, and then I can decide in the ruin. Like, okay, now I know what I'm dealing with. I just scrounge for food, get a weapon.
This is not the collapse, because
this is actually not the collapse. So here's the thing that
you just took my anxiety up to a 10.
No. Okay, so here's what I'll help you with is how do we reduce that anxiety, right? One of the things that Jerry Seinfeld said on an episode of the Late Show with Stephen Colbert was, often we get into the sine wave of life. If you look up close to the sine waves, it feels like you're always rising and falling and rising and falling. And so something bad happens, it puts you at a low. If another bad thing happens, it puts you even lower, right? Like but we got to step back and take the 50-foot view. And so one of the things that often helps me, even in the midst of all this, is the 50-foot view. Like, in the scale of how long society has been on this earth, how long American society is, we have been worse as a people, we have been better. This is just a thing we're going through. In the scale of my good days versus my bad days versus my, they're okay. More often than not, you have okay days. So some of the perspective taking is stepping back and asking yourself, is this thing that's taken over my mind, because that's often what stress will do, particularly the negative stuff. It takes over your mind and you can't let go of it. Thoughts are often sticky when you have anxiety. It's like you cling to the ones. And the ones you cling to are the ones that often give you an emotional response. They trigger within you fear or doubt or insecurity.
Right.
And, you don't want to be rejected. You don't want to be hurt. You don't want to be overwhelmed, whatever. Is this a worry or is this a problem to solve? If you step back and ask yourself that question, right? Worry is something that not much can be done about, but I'm thinking in terms of hypotheticals anyway, right? I'm looking at what I think could go, and then if then. But that might not even be what you're actually dealing with right now. You're just churning. Worry is often those very churny thoughts where you're just finding yourself, but if this happens, but if this happens, but if this happens, but if this happens.
Yeah.
And often worry leads to ruin. The worry isn't that you'll face a specific problem and not be able to overcome it. Worry is often you'll make 27 mistakes that lead to your utter and complete ruin. Yeah, I see you nodding. They can't see you nodding, but I see you nodding, right? So that's why worry is not effective. Problem solving is effective. Is it a thing you're worried about, or is it a problem to be solved? Problem solving, you know how to do because you solve problems every day. Your brain is a problem solver, as I said before.
Right.
So if it's a specific problem, right? You know what resources you need. You know how to get to the solution. You know how to, even if you don't know what to do, you can Google it. I often, when people tell me I don't know to anything, I say I don't know is actually an emotional answer. As I said before, I think in terms of dialectics, what do the emotions say? What does the intellect say? Right. If I give you a specific type of problem, we can often marshal the intellectual resources we need to solve it. If I say to you, Nicole, how do you make dinner?
Yeah, then I have a bunch of steps in my head and I know exactly what I need to do.
Right. But if you get into the worry about what are you going to eat next week,
I don't even know what I'm going to want to eat next week. Or
right. Because that's a more abstract problem than solving what's tomorrow's dinner.
Right.
You're just going to go tacos. You're not going to worry too much about it. Once you start making the tacos, you're not going to second guess, should I have made tacos?
Yeah, no, because you're in making tacos
because we make a lot of assumptions all the time that the steps we take to solve a problem is going to be the right solution, and there's nothing to be worried about.
Right.
We don't have a lot of. You might be emotionally invested in tacos, like you love them. They'll bring you a certain amount of joy and pleasure. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to tacos now. But you're not going to second guess it.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't trigger anxiety.
Right.
Which tells you, as a creature, there are certain things you can do and are capable of doing that don't trigger anxiety.
Yeah.
So you need to remember that when you're facing the other things that trigger worry. Is this a worry? Is this a problem to be solved? If it's a problem to be solved, then what are the steps I need to take to solve it? If it's a worry, I got to let that worry go. I put it on a shelf. I can bring it back up. I mean, maybe you're worried about, like, I talk to students who are, am I going to college or not? Am I going to grad school or not? It's like, yeah, that's a worry to be solved, but first you got to get through this school year.
Yeah.
So you can put that on a shelf and come back to that later.
Yeah.
Right?
There are multiple steps before you get to that point.
Right. As I said, often when you're considering ruination, you're thinking, I'm going to make the 27 decisions that are going to cause me to be ruined. You're not thinking in terms of, but if I problem solve each step, then even if I got to mistake number 4, there's a good chance I could correct it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
There's still an opportunity.
There is always an opportunity. Once again, stepping back away from your life and not just in the sine wave, but looking back and seeing the whole frequency.
Right.
And so even with this, it's not just what do you do in the moment to help yourself feel better about COVID. You should really do some of those things and try and add things to your life. I just got a scent diffuser. I've got some really nice scents I'm looking forward to smelling in my room. Mm-hmm. Some of that's because the cat's litter box is outside the door and he's very pungent.
Kittens are just
male cats, man. Even when fixed, he's got it stings the nostrils. And so it's like doing things in your environment that help you. The 5 senses are very good at soothing us. So having artwork, I put up a lot of artwork in my office. Mm-hmm. I've got a cleaner environment. It's less cluttered because that helps me feel more mentally stable. Pretty visuals, pretty scents, pleasant sounds. I got a record player in here when I want to relax and hear some music and sort of get out of the world a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of created this little space as my safe haven for when I need to detach from the world, but also it's my workspace, so I need it to be able to sort of have 2 different sides. Yeah. That's the stuff you can do in the now that you know is available to you. Right. I've got all my fidget toys on the desk when I know I'm getting stirred up.
Antsy, whatever, yeah.
Right. So that's the stuff you do in the now. Make sure that you're setting up an environment for yourself that can give you a certain amount of pleasure and relaxation. But then when it comes to the much larger, more abstract things, then you have to sort of start to parse out worry versus problem to be solved.
Right.
If it's a problem to be solved, what's the problem in front of me? Can I work on it now? Do I work on it later? Or do I just leave it? Because it might not even be, it might be above me.
It may not be something that you can do anything about.
At which point, then I have to deal with what are my feelings about this that need to be addressed as opposed to the problem itself, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's, once again, that's stepping outside the problem and looking at what's my 50-foot view of this.
Right.
When it's a worry, you're going to worry. Don't be upset with yourself for worrying, but just sort of work to let it go when the worries come so that you don't have to dwell on them and let them overwhelm you, because they will. Yeah. That's what worries do. And worries always stack because they're so abstract, and often because they're so abstract, nothing can be done about them anyway.
Yeah.
So we just start piling on all these things that nothing can be done about.
Bucket of worries, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger till it's overfilling, and then you feel overwhelmed. All of your mental and emotional resources get drained, and now you just feel completely worn out.
Yep.
And so that's sort of the problem with the COVID thing. There's so little that can be done about the much larger, like we can't get the president under control. We can't get the CDC to give us clear information that hasn't been tampered with by politics. Like we can't get enough to help us feel like, hey,
we're going to eventually get out of this.
Right. Right. And there are other countries who are, New Zealand's doing great. Taiwan is doing great.
Yeah, they are.
You know,
Yeah.
Korea's doing great. And we're like, oh, but what does it take for us to do better? Because this is still scary.
We don't want to follow rules.
Well, I'm not saying all of us, but I mean, there are some of us in this country.
I'm talking about the country.
Yeah. And so in the face of something so big, all you have is you. All you have is control over your life. So anything about, you know, what the president is doing is a worry that can't be resolved by little old you. This isn't the movie where little old you is going to come running in and hand the president the antidote and then the world will be saved. This is, you're the person in the movie who, you know, is standing in the streets waiting for the people above you. This is Baltimore, gentlemen. The gods are fucking you, you know?
Yeah.
Right? The systems are going to screw you as the little guy. So you just got to find a way within your little fiefdom to make meaning out of the life you have.
Yeah.
And let some of those worries, they just got to be butterflies that drift away.
Yeah.
And you got to stop and assess, is this a worry? Is this a problem? If it's a worry, I got to let it go. I mean, it's bringing up some emotions in me.
Yeah.
And as I said before, you can do the things in the immediate that help to work through those emotions. If you need to cry, have a good cry. If you need to shout, have a good shout. If you need to dance to some music to get the energy out of your body,
then do that.
Do that.
So as a person who has anxiety and depression and is on medicine, I saw a post a while back. One of my mom groups was talking about the anxiety, depression during COVID, and one of the ladies said she's had to go to her doctor a couple of times to have her medicine adjusted just for this time specifically.
Yeah.
Never even occurred to me that, you know, I'm taking this medicine. It does help me pre-COVID.
Yeah.
But the situation is so different now. You may need to go back and, you know, look at.
You may need to reassess that under these conditions, my anxiety is higher.
Right. So maybe I need.
And maybe you need to change your dosages. Maybe you need to, once again, work in some of that other stuff.
Right.
Make sure that you're prioritizing some of that other stuff.
Right.
Which isn't the end all be all, but it does. You know, I always think of stress as like a pressure cooker in a way. Like there's only so much pressure the insides can take before it blows. And you got to do something to relieve the pressure as often as possible.
Right.
And some of that is, you know, being clean in your thinking, being clean in the way you eat, getting enough sleep, not drinking, you know, too much alcohol or using too many drugs, like all those things that keep you feeling more balanced, along with keeping your mind sort of in a what can I control or what can't I control space, right? Doing that mental, what's the word? A mental pros and cons list kind of thing where it's like, what is it I can actually control? I can control the flow of information that comes to me. I can control my daily routine. I can control how I relax. If I have connections with people, I can control whether or not I exercise or receive support from others or give support. But I can't control other people, right? I can't control what the government does. I can't control whether or not the schools are open or closed. I can't control the healthcare system.
Right.
Whether or not the holidays are going to happen. Like all these things they're worries, but they're abstract. There's nothing immediate that can be done.
And there are people who, so like I said, I take medicine, but there are also other things that I try to do to keep a good balance. I discovered I love to braid hair. That's one of the things that, you know, relaxes me. So
you have a little girl, so you can braid her hair as often as she allows it.
If she can sit still long enough. So, but I mean, there are certain things that I put into place, but there are people who need the help of medicine, right? Because their brain is just, you know, not going to cooperate. Not a fan of taking medicine, but it's helped so much that it's something that, you know,
you do what you got to do to be healthy,
right? And I think there are a lot of people who are apprehensive about, you know, maybe they don't take medicine at all. Maybe they need to.
A lot of people have anxiety around taking medicine. Like, do I have to take a thing every day to help me feel normal?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I refuse to take medicine for a year, 2 years almost.
It was a while.
Yeah. I mean, and I had tried a number of things, and you know, it just did not help. And then I found something that actually worked. I had a very good doctor, and I implemented some of the other things that keep me balanced. And I try to, like you said, set realistic sort of
expectations. Don't let the expectations get away from you.
I can't control everything these kids are going to do. I can't control the world. I know I cannot go out into the world without feeling such a high level of anxiety of catching COVID that I just keep I stay here, basically. So there are certain things that I know.
You got a system that allows that. So what would be more stress is if you put stress on yourself and on your body that you have to go out.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, but for the most part, I try to juggle that. I don't mind going out. I mean, I do. I have my own anxieties, but now I'm in a good. Now I want some. I've learned that there are glasses you can wear.
Yeah, they have
not the whole face mask glasses, but at least the ones that cover my eyes. I don't want a whole full face mask, but I think I want one of those. Just because I feel like I want to up my game a little bit before I go full gas mask. And so
before you go full gas,
right? I'm not there yet, but. I am thoughtful. It's okay for me to go out into the world and bring things back once a week.
You are pretty thoughtful about, and you have a better process too.
Yeah,
you're very good about the masks. And
meticulous.
I'm
good with routines. Yes.
Yep.
Man, I went to the store today and I was like, did I wipe my hand? Let's just do it again. Let's just antibacterial my hands again. I think I did it like 3 times after I came out of Sam's. But so it's. That's probably the reason I got it before you did, and everything that I was going out into the world and going places and working in a building.
Yeah.
But
and it's also still part of your job. A couple days a week. So.
Yeah. So, but I mean, one of the things that I didn't talk about that I did want to make sure that I mentioned is that stress affects the body too. So it's not just mental. A lot of people assume it's like, well, it's just my thoughts. No, you have a physical reaction. So that's why sometimes you could feel worn out. That's why sometimes you could feel as if you're being overwhelmed and down or on pins and needles because
like you have the flu, like
your fight or flight system just goes haywire because of how it reacts to these stressors. So we have to sort of take care of ourselves. That's why we do, like I said, a lot of those things can help relax the body because your body could be kind of hijacked by these stressors, but you could also hijack the same systems to help yourself calm down. Like warm water always calms people down. Warm relaxes, cold shocks. So, splashing cold water in your face when you feel yourself getting too amped up. Brief vigorous exercise is one of the ways we can sort of keep our body out of a panic state. That's why sometimes you got to do waving your hands or running in place, or, some people pace when they're freaking out. Because these are all things your body kind of needs to do to work through the energy. And if you don't, then you're going to feel overwhelmed. Once again, that pressure cooker is going to get too overloaded. And so recognizing that when your body's experiencing some of those states, sometimes you can get really good at noticing, oh, my heart rate's going up, or I'm starting to feel tense, or I'm feeling hot in the head. I may be on the verge of being overwhelmed physically, or by my anxiety's giving me some reactions to something, and you can stop and, do something to reduce that reaction or distract yourself long enough that you can maybe take on the next thing. So sometimes checking in with yourself when you're experiencing some of these reactions can help you to not necessarily have to go down the dark well, as it were.
Yeah, learning some of those triggers, definitely. I often, not too often, but I do wake up in the middle of the night and my brain is just like stressed about something completely stupid, doesn't make sense, and I know it, but I'm up. My eyes are open and my heart's beating fast, and it's like, this is not even something that you
can do anything about
or should do anything about. So I find ways to. I think about the beach. That's what I do.
Yeah. The beach is a good one. Go back to the beach in your mind. I remember doing the beach with you. What was that one?
It was one of the babies. Yeah.
I did a whole. What is it? Mental.
You're not feeling any pain. You're at the beach, and think about being in clear water. And no, y'all should have heard the expletives I yelled at them, but it worked.
Yeah, see. I did a whole walk you through the whole thing. You can feel the sand in your toes and the waves going in and going out.
Oh yeah. That was with Ra.
Was it? Was that the first baby?
It was the first baby because we're in the hospital and your mom is reading the computer that says how bad the contractions are, and the contractions are bad.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, no. Think about the beach and the water and the crashing waves, and your mom's over there reading it like, man, that was a bad one.
It's like, Mom, don't need that right now. Think about the beach. You're still on the beach.
You want me to go to the beach.
You're still on the beach. You're still on the beach. You can feel the waves, the clear water. You can see your feet in the water. You can feel the white sand beneath your toes. You can feel it, can't you? The weight of your body just floats in the ocean. And we can do this. We're going to do this. We're going to survive.
We're going to survive.
And you'll be back at the beach before you know it. You'll be back at the beach before you know it, Nicole.
See, you said it then and I believed it. I don't know that I believe it now.
We will eventually.
Yeah.
I'll take you to the beach as soon as as soon as Florida's safe. I mean, honestly,
you know what?
Of the things that need to be safe, Florida is chief among them.
Yeah. No.
For me to say, okay, we'll drive into a state that's not fully, whatever color signal they use to say worst
right.
in the country.
They need to be green for a good while.
Right.
Whatever that is.
I need to see numbers go down. Their numbers have constantly been rising, and I don't want to be one of those. I bring the numbers from another state.
Oh yeah,
to shoot up.
Yeah.
So
No.
So I mean, we're talking about keeping the anxiety at bay, particularly the COVID anxiety. Trying to remember what you can control and what you can't. Remember, your body's bad at predictions. Always remember that. So sometimes it's predicting things that might never happen. You're spending energy and resources on thoughts that are purely hypothetical, and you just need to work on letting those go. Just give yourself permission to let those go. And instead, focus on, is this a problem to be solved? If it is, what do I need to do to solve the problem? In any problem, and I always tell people this, as I said before, I don't know is an emotional answer. If you have a problem, I'm pretty sure you can put it into Google, and Google will give you steps. They give you steps to the most random problems.
They do.
And so just, if you can get clear-headed enough.
There's a YouTube for everything.
If you can get clear-headed enough to type it into Google, like, how do I just pulled a button off my shirt. How do I get it back on?
Yeah.
There's a Google for that.
Yeah.
I was up trying to figure out how to change the doorknobs. There was a Google for that.
There was definitely a Google for that.
Google saved me on that. Like, all of those things. And the most random things, someone else has had the problem.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, being clear-headed enough to know that I don't know, but I can find an answer, as opposed to getting stuck at I don't know, as if there's a period at the end of that sentence and there's nothing more that can be done. Because that's when anxiety makes you feel helpless and hopeless. And you don't need that.
Very true.
You need to be able to tell yourself that you can be open-minded enough that there is a possibility of solution.
Right.
And I just got to hold on long enough to find it.
Right.
Because it's never hopeless. It's never helpless.
And there are often some things that you can't type into Google, right? And that means that it's
either.
probably not even a thing. No, I'm saying that there's some things that aren't
You don't even have a clearly formed idea about it.
They're not formed at all.
You just got this buzzing anxiety.
Yeah.
I once had a client refer to his anxiety as a jar full of bees, and I thought, man, that was I love a good, visual metaphor.
Yeah.
And it was like, how do we let those bees out? He was like, I would love to let the bees out. And it's like, And here's the interesting thing about that. You shake that jar up too much, those bees are going to sting you. So let's figure out a way to let them out one by one, or get them all relaxed and then let them out.
Figure out how to take the top off without getting stung is what you're saying.
Yeah. So, let's figure out how to let those butterflies out, and that they don't have to be, thoughts. I always like the thoughts butterflies metaphor. Because, it seems like a lot of activity, a lot of fluttering. But if you let them out, they can be very beautiful. You step back and look at them.
They just want to get out and go away.
That's really all they want. They just want to escape.
Yeah.
And so some of those thoughts that are affecting you and causing all these emotional triggers and reactions, they just need space and time to drift away. You think a million things a day, as I said before. And there's some of them you don't hold on to. What do I want for lunch? You have the thing for lunch. You don't second guess yourself.
Does anybody even remember what they had for lunch today?
Not always. But there are other thoughts that stick, and the anxiety just sort of stokes the coals until it's a 4-alarm blaze, and you're like, I can't stop thinking about this thing that I feel like is going to destroy me.
Yeah. Well, I think, at least for me, one of the things that also helps, besides, allowing yourself to make mistakes and giving yourself some grace, is sometimes you just need help. Yeah. So if you don't have the energy to cook that dinner, or if you need somebody to come and clean your house just because you just cannot. Right.
If you can afford it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's always the thing. It's like, I don't want to spend the money to do that.
Yeah. But if you can afford it. If you can get help from some people. That's another thing that is a struggle, and I'm willing to admit this right here on air. Everybody's going through this. So I've had quite a few people say to me, I want to call my mom, but she's going through her own thing. Yeah. Now, the other side of that is, yes, everybody's going through things, and they may not have the same bandwidth they might have had at any other time in your history together. It is important to remember that helping people helps us.
True.
So sometimes us being there for that person and then allowing them to be there for us helps us both carry each other further than we would have gone alone.
Right.
So reaching out to people may feel like it's burdening them while they're already themselves overwhelmed by things.
Right.
It does actually help both of you. You can mutually help each other by being there for each other in that space.
Right. I have a great group chat going with my girlfriends and my cousin, and we honestly just getting through this time and it's just been so incredibly helpful. We talk about serious things, we make jokes, we send memes, we do a little bit of everything, and it's nice to have that little
we call that asynchronous support. So the group chat is great because you don't have to always be on at the same time.
Right.
You can drop a meme in there, and then when someone is available, they'll send you something back.
Yep.
And that means you're constantly in a flow of contact.
Yeah, and there's no pressure there's no pressure like a phone call where you got to be available at 7 p.m. on Friday.
Right. You got to be on, and you got to be active at the time and available mentally and emotionally.
Right.
But instead, just when I'm available, I'm available. When I'm not, nobody has any problems or frustrations.
It's so free flowing because there are often times where one of us is working late and we don't get through all the 30 messages until late that night, and and that's fine. We're just kind of reaching out, checking on each other, and it's just a nice reprieve.
Yeah. All of my group chats are mostly just memes. People sending memes back and forth.
I like memes. Memes are good.
Yeah, it's fun. So I think that's a good place to wrap it up. We're at an hour and 20 again, but some of this is going to get chopped down.
Yeah.
I was hoping we could keep it to a certain... We're trying to keep it an hour. We're trying to get as close as we can back to the hour. We are obviously not good at that.
120 seems to be the pattern that
about
we
standard.
have.
And that's before I add all the encores and the cold open and all that.
Right.
So thank you so much for listening. I hope everybody out there is, I know you're stressed. I know it's a lot, but you can do this. I believe in you. And that means that you should believe in you too.
Yeah.
And what I always say to people is we're very hard on ourselves. We are in many ways our own worst enemy, but try to see yourselves with the same light of love that you give to others.
Right. Give yourself some of that love.
Try
that
to
you
give
give
your
to
best
other people.
self that you give to other people.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If I can offer you anything for the week, it's try to continue to sort of be forgiving of yourself and see yourself with the same light of love.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we're going to wrap up the Hall Space Podcast, episode 14. Shout out to our Gold Star members,
Regular
Speak Kaya
listeners.
and Chris Reese and Natalie and Angel.
Yep. Thank you guys. We really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about that time, huh?
Yep, it's about that time.
You know what the music means.
You know what the music means. Our time is up.
I say good day, sir.
I say good day. The Hall Space Podcast is brought to you by Hall Productions, LLC. Show notes and credits can be found at our webpage, thehallspacepodcast.wordpress.com. Any questions, comments, or concerns can be sent to us at thehallspacepodcast@gmail.com. The show is written by Daggerpin Davis. Music is curated by DJ Cabal. The show is produced by Chuck Jones and recorded at Slash and Trash Studios. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a good week. And now, another edition of House Hall Theater.
So my mother lives in our basement now. She's come to live with us, and there are two parts to the basement, and one part of it is where she lives, has a really nice tile floor. We have her bed, we have her TV, we have her set up nicely.
She's set up pretty plush.
It's very plush, super nice. The other side of the basement was where House Hall Academy was, and because we prefer to actually work upstairs, it's kind of become a disaster. So my uncle comes over on Sunday to help my mother set up a couple of other things to get her bedroom finished, like the closet area, shoes and things like that. So we get her set up on the other side of the room. Her side of the room looks nice. The other side of the room looks like a disaster. Mm-hmm. Previously, before that, there was a movie night where They set up chairs and had slushies and popcorn and apparently Fruit Loops.
Yeah, and just let loose, just all over the floor.
It was a party, and it looked like a party had happened.
Right.
And so
they had a great time.
They had an awesome
partied
time.
Like rock stars. You could tell by all the crap they left on your floor.
You could tell. And Grandma watched movies with them, and also, was a part of the party. But there was a mess made, and so
literally
Sunday,
overturned chairs, debris all over the floor. It was a disaster.
Spilled Kool-Aid. It was just a mess. So I spend all of Sunday cleaning that mess up.
Yeah,
and I get it nice. I get the couches where I want.
You're feeling pretty good about it.
Feeling great about it.
I don't think I ever actually saw it fully clean.
No,
I meant to make it down there and didn't make it.
Yeah, I think you missed it, but it in its prime.
Yeah.
Yes, my mom's side of the bed, her bed is made. This other side, I sent a picture to my uncle, like, okay, I finally got the basement, like I like. And so not a day later, I go down and the kids are down there.
Only took them a day.
I go down there and it is a full-on mess again. And there's stuff
not 24 hours later
everywhere. There's
24
toys everywhere. And I thought I hid those toys, but clearly not well enough. So there are toys everywhere. And I go down, I'm fuming. Because, my mom has to live down here. There are the Value City furniture guys are coming to fix her bed. And she has a caseworker and a psychiatrist. And, they need to see that she's living in a nice, clean, stable area. And they are making this look really bad. So I'm down there and I'm like, holy cow, I'm going to murder you guys. You have made a mess. And our oldest son, Richie Alexander, says, "You're going to murder us? Really? With what weapon?"
I mean, it's an important question. Is this a knife fight we're talking about? Is this a gunfight? Well,
and the interesting thing about that is Daniel and I had just finished playing Clue. So it's like, in what room, with what weapon, who did it?
Right.
And so Rob's like, so with what weapon? I'm like, okay, no.
Black Nicole with her bare hands is going to murder 3 small children.
I'm just frustrated. And so I step back and I'm like, no, okay.
Great vengeance and furious anger.
Listen, I'm sorry. I don't mean murder you. I'm just going to chip you to China because there's stuff because I keep finding stuff as I'm cleaning up.
Yeah, they're relentless in how well they clean.
I'm like, I'm going to put you in a box. I'm going to put all 3 of you in a box and I'm going to ship you to China. And Ross says, pretty sure that's also illegal. Yeah.
So he has your number.
He totally has my number because what do you say to that?
Right. Right.
I'm just going to clean my basement and be done.
This has been another episode of House Hall Theater.
House Hall. We rise brilliantly.